Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some of that upcoming snowfall. There's two major looking snowstorms at this point, and we're going to be taking mostly a look at those, but anything in between as well. Anyways, before I get into this video, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. For today's comment of the day, I want to know, how far south do you think that snowfall is going to get on the eastern seaboard with the first snowstorm? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Now, as we take a look here at some ongoing snowfall up there for the north central United States, you can see states like North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, all seeing snowfall at this point. We can see here that this area in particular is seeing the heaviest snowfall. We do have some snow showers left over behind it there in Montana as well. And even for areas in Michigan here, we can see they're starting to get some snowfall as well. And in general, what we're going to see happen is this is really all just going to move into the northeastern corner of the United States. But I really feel like this is going to be more especially active for the mountainous regions. We're talking our Adirondacks over here, Vermont, New Hampshire, and northern regions of Maine as well. I think that area there could get some snowfall from this one. But as far as areas outside of those mountain ranges, it seems like it's going to be a little bit too marginal as far as temperatures are concerned. Now let's just move into some model guidance here, and we can see that snowfall going on up there. It seems a little bit behind, and it is because it is a little bit behind. Let's move to about now. It's going to be about 6 a.m. So yeah, this looks really similar to what we're actually seeing right now. So let's just take a look here. We can see that there is those snow showers back there in Montana and Idaho. We also have our heavier snowfall in here. So yeah, it's looking really good at this point. It's looking very similar to what's actually ongoing, which is obviously what you want to see from a model. Now, as we move this forward, we can see this eventually moves mostly into the Great Lakes. And this low pressure system actually develops, much stronger. It's a 999 millibar low pressure center by this point. We can see that snowfall is much heavier here for Michigan and Minnesota especially, but also Wisconsin by that point. Let's just take a look here at a little bit later on. Let's just move this forward, and this is going to be by the time we're seeing this one move into the northeast. And you can see, yeah, looking very exclusive here for these mountainous regions. Let's just zoom in to the northeast here. Yeah, and as you can see, I mean, there is some snowfall, obviously, like I mentioned before, especially here in northern Maine, areas in Vermont and New Hampshire, maybe. But if you're outside of this region, it doesn't really seem like any wintry precipitation is going to really occur with this. This is very typical for a more warmer situation when a storm moves through this time of year. So not too surprising there, but generally that's what's expected this time around, and that wasn't always the case, but this time it really is. Now, it's interesting by this point because we can really make out that cold front here. I mean, I'm drawing it on screen here. You can tell where it is. It really is just evident. You don't even need me to tell you. But let's switch to those temperatures, and I'm going to leave that drawing on screen, and you can tell that's where the switch is happening. We can see some of the oranges in here. Down here in the south, but we see the blues up above it. And look, those oranges are going to be, anywhere from about 60 to maybe 80 degrees down there in southern Louisiana and Texas. But those blues up there, especially those brighter blues, are going to be more like your 30s, 40s, maybe even some 20s in there. So that's a huge difference taking place in there. Once we take a look at those temperature anomalies as well, you can see that cold front is in there. So even though the next 10 days look like this, and you can really, really tell that your jet stream is going to look something like this a little bit, but it's not a severe trough. A severe trough would look much more like this, and we could tell that's definitely not what's happening at this point. It is much more subtle than that. We call this a zonal pattern when there's hardly any curvature to it. And that's why we're only seeing a little bit of some below normal temperatures in here. We're seeing plenty of above normal temperatures because usually there's somewhere with the trough, and in this case, there's not really. And you could tell by this point, most of that colder air is going to be located up here in Canada for the most part, which is usually considered to be a positive AO, and that is what we find ourselves in this time around. Now, there will be some periods with some colder temperatures here. As you can see, this frame, for instance, Tuesday to Wednesday, that's going to be the 7th in through the 8th, and this is when we expect that first snowstorm. But also, if we move this forward a little bit, we could see another colder time period there around the 12th and the 13th. These will be fairly short lived, and a majority of the next 10 days will be featuring some above normal temperatures. Let's finally talk about those snowstorms really after this cold front moves through here. And the first one here we see built in around, again, Wednesday the 8th. And this model here has been just so uh, I don't know what you would call it. It's been really just suppressing it down to the south for the most part. And it's been a weaker system because of that. Obviously, the further south you go with it, the weaker it's going to be. But we do see some snow showers located in here for the most part. But this storm is never really able to garner that cold air enough to become a very major snowstorm. If this low pressure system was about 100 miles further north, we would see a much more major solution with this. I'm almost sure of it. But let's just move forward with this, and we do see a little bit of some moderate snowfall develop there. But again, it's very, very far south here in these regions in here, and I doubt we will see too much accumulation if that was to take place. And then that eventually moves out. So let's go ahead and switch this back. Let's move to our GFS model here and just see the difference. So we see this one really built in by this point. We can see there is some moderate to heavy snowfall here for southern Ohio, southern Pennsylvania, areas in West Virginia, and even Kentucky developing. We can already tell this is going to be a much more major solution already by this point. And it's really evident by the time we reach this frame. This will be about 8 p.m. on Wednesday. That's going to be the 8th heading into the 9th. And we can see heavy snowfall from DC up through Philadelphia, up through New York City. We see Providence, Rhode Island included, as well as Boston. So you got all your northeastern large cities included here in this major snowstorm if it was to take place this way. And I think this is a lot of people's dream that we're seeing right here. You could tell the heaviest corridor is right where you would want it to be for East Coast snow lovers. I mean, we really have the heaviest corridor right in here. Very classic, and it's been a few years since we've seen a storm really take on that classic track. So I'm sure a lot of people would be hoping for this solution to take place. Eventually, we do see that move out. Let's take a look at the total snowfall, though, on this model. And as you can see, we have a general 6 to 10 inches of snowfall for a lot of regions here. I think generally this is a little low, actually, from what we just saw. It's really weird when a model does that, but on the precipitation type, it definitely looked a lot more intense than what this would suggest. But still a general 6 to 12 inches of snowfall, basically from southern Pennsylvania up through New England. But generally, Maine getting the most snowfall in this model's solution. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that Canadian model has to say about this. And we're just going to move back with the simulated radar. And it's a lot more like the European model. We can see it's suppressed to the south. This is going to be about 6 a.m. on Wednesday, December 8th. And we can already tell that Kentucky, West Virginia, Virginia are in this one, mostly in the bullseye by this point. And we get actually some moderate to heavy snowfall here for areas in Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, the Delmarva even in there. So this is definitely looking pretty major by this point, I would say. I would say a pretty moderate snowstorm by that point, and it moves out in general. Let's take a look at the total snowfall on this one, though, and it's more suppressed. It's more like a 2 to 6 inch snowfall event for these further south states, Kentucky, West Virginia, Virginia, the Delmarva. And we do have to consider this option because really this time of year it is possible to get these types of snowstorms for these regions. It's not November anymore, it's not October anymore. These things aren't far-fetched when we see this happen. These areas do see snowfall, especially these lighter amounts, your general 2 to 6 inch amounts. It's very common for this region. So we're going to need to watch this very, very closely. Now, we're just going to move forward even further here with our European model. And this is going to be about 6 a.m. on Friday. And we see another storm developing there in the central United States. And as we move this even further forward, you can see this actually begins to bring some snowfall for areas in northern Missouri, southern Iowa, and even northern Illinois there. This expands even further by the time we're reaching about 2 a.m. on Saturday, December 11th. We can see moderate to heavy snowfall developing there for northern Illinois, northern Indiana, and then southern Michigan as well with a 999 millibar low pressure system. And then this is when things get really crazy. We see by the time we reach about 8 p.m. on Saturday, December 11th, we see a 998 millibar low pressure center developing down there for northern Georgia, southern Tennessee there, and we see some snowfall even developing there for Tennessee and Kentucky. As we move towards about 2 a.m., this really develops even further. Let's go ahead and move this actually towards the eastern United States. And as you can see, we have very heavy snowfall developing for Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, even Pennsylvania. As we move this one step further, this is a 986 millibar low pressure center by this point, and this is a classic interior snowstorm. We see western North Carolina, western Virginia. We see eastern Tennessee and eastern Kentucky. We see all of West Virginia. We see eastern Ohio there, western Pennsylvania, and then a lot of northern New York seeing very, very heavy snowfall by this point. Let's move this towards about 2 p.m. on Sunday. We have a 987 millibar low pressure center over New York City. We're still seeing very heavy snowfall for West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, and even New England. And eventually this one moves out. This is going to be by about 8 p.m. on Sunday, December 12th there, and it's for the most part moved out. We see still a 986 millibar low pressure center now over Boston. And this is a classic interior snowstorm. It never really reaches the coast with a lot of that heaviest snowfall. Let's take a look at that snowfall, the total snowfall real quick, and that is very extreme, obviously. 1 to 2 feet basically from West Virginia up through Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and even Maine, with some surrounding regions seeing some snowfall, but this is just very interior, very crazy, and obviously very far out, so we're going to need to take that with a grain of salt. Anyways, for today's confidence tab, we're actually at a 4 out of 6, kind of in that middle of the road area because the snowstorm that's going on right now, obviously I'm at a 6 out of 6, the one coming up pretty soon, we're at more like a 5 or a 4, and then the one in the longer range, we're more like a 3 or a 2 or even a 1 at this point because of how the long range models have been. That brings us to a very like 50-50 confidence overall when we take a grand scheme look at pretty much everything. Also, for today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, do you think any of these snowstorms will happen? And James Marr said, I believe both of them will happen, but there are still important details to figure out, and that is super, super true at this point. For today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons, Bill Crates, James Wade, Dovey Nagel, Larry LePan, Mandy Birchfield, and Patrick Strickland as well. I would also like to thank our diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Codalessa, Catbite, Charles Tennant, Cindy Klein, Alan Goodmaben, Bill Dallas, Gary's, John Calisi, Dwight Phelan, Stephen Kernenthal, and Thomas D. Barr as well. I would also like to thank our channel members, Catbite, Stephen Fan, and Jeremy Cox also. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.